Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode. I am JB, and of course with me is Mark Marsh.
Hey everybody, it's good to be back.
So today I want to kickstart a conversation talking about why the community, why the Scooby-Doo fandom needs a third season of Mystery Incorporated. And I'm going to elaborate on this sooner because what I'm personally talking about may not even necessarily be a third season of Mystery Incorporated. But I'll kick things off with asking you, Mark, about if you think that there should be a third season and what you'd like to see out of it.
So, out of the Scooby-Doo shows, I feel like the one that deserves a third season is Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. Even though many people were up and down about it when it came out, that it really held its own with the second season, and it definitely kept true to dark tone, but also family friendly. Like it balanced the two. It really made sure that each episode they were going for something dark. It was meant to be gruesome. It wasn't meant to be a friendly encounter because it was the first one in a. I feel like the what's the after What's New Scooby Doo, everything's just been mystery based, where each episode is a completely different mystery with no um continuation, so you don't know how far long it's been since the last mystery. And I feel like Mystery Incorporated took that as initiative to try and do a continuation storyline where they can follow it while also doing mysteries while they're trying to tackle this main story epidemic. So I feel like they made sure to give the arc its own major storyline across the entire season, but also with each episode they have to solve mysteries, whereas some mysteries will line up with the arc while others are just filler ones,
Yeah,
but they made it clear so
like
we
free for
knew,
the weeks, though.
yeah, so we knew exactly how and where they were. And as it's a continuation, everything's pretty much like a movie where you're following it from start to finish. So you can be like six episodes down and you get so many references and recaps to a previous episode where they try and go back and let the audience know that, you know, they're returning back to this scene or something like that. So in terms of first season, I think it should have got one. The fact that it didn't was a bit upsetting because if you look at the ending, you can take it as two ways. It could be, start to the end or a new beginning. It left on a cliffhanger, but it could just be the start of something new. So I always had the theory of the ending of Mystery Incorporated was the start of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? That's what I've always got in my head because that's when they set off on their journey on the road. And we've always wondered when did they leave their hometown? What drove them to leave their hometown to go across the country, go across the world, solving mysteries? And I feel like Mystery Incorporated is pretty much the pilot or a prequel, just shows everything about how it begins. So that's why I always feel like they did it correctly. So if they did do a third season, they could pretty much do Where Are You in a sense of them on the road solving mysteries. While the Black Knight Ghost is their first mystery officially, but I don't think it is. Because how did they get to there? That's what I always wondered. Like, how did they get qualified to be mystery solvers? They must have solved stuff before that. So that's why they should do a third season so we can indulge and go into that storyline. And, the time lapse up until the Dark Knight Ghost, they could do that. So then we can see where they are. Because the ending was fascinating because it pretty much had time manipulation in it. It broke the fourth wall. It definitely took everyone back by surprise. Whereas now you have something new to work with. Many characters that are supposed to be dead are back. Many characters are, have different roles than they previously did. Like Fred with his dad, his mayor dad is his coach, and his actual parents are with him, and they're not corrupt. So it's like they can definitely change up and have a new way of knowing that Crystal Cove isn't a place for um hauntings. So everyone at the whole town doesn't remember anything that went about. Only the Mystery Inc. gang know of all the mystery they've solved. So everything up until then, they don't get no credit for because technically it didn't happen in that timeline. So that's why the Black Knight Ghost is technically the first solved mystery. So that's why I still believe Mystery Incorporated came before Where Are You? And that explains why they claim Black Knight Ghost the first mystery, but it is in fact not.
Yeah, I mean, here's kind of my thing, and it's so ironic, but the kind of reference that I always find the most like that I can accept as headcanon is ironically something like the end of Curse of the Lake Monster of all films, where it's they were solving mysteries before, but due to technicalities and licensing, they officially became incorporated as a mystery solving business when they got some type of funding and stuff. So I can imagine them solving mysteries like they would do, like ghosts, people in costumes, stuff like that. But the Black Knight Ghost could have been their first case after a stage a bit similar to that of becoming incorporated. And in that regard, I feel like they could do a third season because the whole show is called Mystery Incorporated. But I don't think at any point in those two seasons they ever become, incorporated. So I think that would
Yeah,
kind of
because
fit in
they
nicely.
never took the name. They had their secret, fundings from Mister E,
Oh yeah. And of course there was
which
the Mystery Inc.
yeah,
prior, like all that crew. So they kind of passed on the mantle, but I guess they never officially became incorporated.
until they left to go on the road.
But I think even speaking to some of the people that worked on that show, it was definitely made to be a prequel to that original series. And so I think there's a lot of people that are in comment sections on some of the videos we've made about a season three that says that really the whole show almost had a start and an end and it doesn't need any more. And the thing that I would always say to that is I agree. I think if they never made a third season, I don't think I'd be, up at night wondering what happened to them. I think it did end nicely. But there's so many shows, take for instance Doctor Who, that have a start to one story and an end to another story, and then a start to another story. Like there's so many shows that have been long standing that have had certain story arcs that wrap up nicely and then they start another one. Even movies, like why make a sequel? Why make a third one? Because there's always new stories to tell. So where do you kind of sit on that pendulum? Like, do you think it did end nicely to a point where a third season isn't needed?
It it ended great. Probably the biggest cliffhanger out of Scooby Doo history because it opened the door as to what's going to lie ahead. Like, are they just going to go straight um to solve their next mystery, or what's the deal with that guy knowing that their secret that they're the only ones that know the occurrence of has happened? But how does that guy know? He may be smart, but how smart is he?
See, have you
he
seen Ben 10, like the later seasons? Say not the new one that's on now, but like Alien Force, Ultimate Alien. Because I almost think that if they did do a third one, they shouldn't make it all multiversal and stuff. Not because people are kind of fed up about it, but because it would be too high concept to run into. But I think he could almost be a character. Maybe people watching this will kind of know what I mean. But like Professor Paradox in Ben 10, where he's almost the a space hopper or a multiversal hopper himself. And that's kind of where I see things because if there is a third season, I almost don't want it to follow too much because I've got a good comfort in Mystery Incorporated knowing you've got Patrick Warburton as Sheriff Bronson Stone. You've got all those side characters, the spooky setting. Whereas if we are on a road trip, they're either going to find ridiculous ways to bring characters like that back, or we're going to have to say goodbye to a lot of characters that we know and love. So, and even then, one thing people hated about Mystery Incorporated is the relationship dynamic.
oh
And the
yeah.
one thing I'm scared of, for all I didn't hate it, is if we have the ending of that canon, Fred and Daphne are still engaged, so they're either gonna have to have a marriage in season three, which would be cool, or Fred's gonna end up flaking, and we're gonna have this back and forward where Fred doesn't want to commit, and you know what I mean? Like it could get bogged down with a lot of that relationship stuff that people don't like. So I almost feel like a third season may have to not retcon, but reconsider a few things.
Yeah, because like if a third season never happened, I wouldn't be too upset because I'm grateful that we got the 2 seasons and the ending is great because at least it leaves the door open. So if they do, they got a way to sneak back in with an excuse. Whereas some seasons they just throw it in there and it's like, why? Like take Velma for examples. Don't need a first, don't need a second season. We're done. Second season, don't need it. Whereas Mystery Incorporated, it's like, oh, true, we don't need it, but if it did, we want it because no one's going to say no to it. It's like, right, we're invested. Don't screw it up. That kind of motto.
I mean, if you
Because
got the
they
team
did
back,
well.
the
Yeah,
writers, the directors, the cast, like
that's what made it. The
they're
directors and
not just
writers.
gonna go from competent, skilled writers in like seasons 2 and 3 to completely pooping the bed in season 3. Like there's gonna be something that brings them back to the project. So I know it will be good with that crew.
Yeah, because they
It's
worked
just
well on the personalities of the gang.
mm,
Like I really loved how they worked on Fred, whereas the seasons before he's just been the strong leader. Whereas this time we see more to him as a character, and I love how they made him obsessed with traps, which is probably the best thing I love because he took it to a whole new level where it's just entertaining watching him get obsessed with traps. While Daphne's just there tied to a sofa bed with a water rising.
oh, he's like fumbling big time, but you kind of he's endearing in that regard. I like his vulnerability as well, though. Like he actually has serious moments, and that's the thing. Like I always go back to that moment where Fred opens up to Daphne about why he's being so controlling, and I just think compare that scene in a kids' TV show shows more depth than anything in the Velma show that supposedly is for adults. But this is kind of my overall point about all of this is I think the Velma show actually gave me a glimpse into what the Scooby Doo series needs in the completely wrong way. So with Velma, we had weekly releases. It was a show with you can call it a story, but let's just say different things happened every week. And so for all there was a lot of outrage every week, like this is the week where underage women got, objectified. This is the week where Velma makes a racist comment, and then next week this is a week where they make a joke about police brutality and all of that stuff. But people, even though it was from a hateful point of view or from a criticizing point of view, were sticking with the series every week for like YouTube videos and stuff like that. And imagine if Mystery Incorporated, so say we entered a different timeline where after Shaggy and Scooby Doo get a clue, we went straight to Be Cool and then straight to Guess Who. If Mystery Incorporated started airing now, imagine how good that would be. Like if Cartoon Network didn't, if there wasn't that controversy and we got different episodes of that show every single week for like what 27 episodes, 27 weeks. Imagine that. Every week
That
would
will
be a community
that
event.
and it would definitely get a second season worthy straight away.
Like we would be making reviews, reactions. We'd probably be talking about all the different episodes, like in like a week's delay on this show.
Because there's only one Scooby Doo show that had a third season, and that's What's New Scooby Doo, due to it being very popular, that they gave it a third season. Whereas all the others have been 2 seasons. And people come back, oh, but Where Are You had 3 seasons? No, it didn't. Okay, 9 episodes doesn't make a season because they quickly changed it to fill the slot of the new Scooby Doo show. So it's not a third season.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But I just think,
Whereas
even if we
Mystery
don't get a
Incorporated
Mystery
could have
Incorporated
got
season 3, a good show with good writing that is released every week with a storyline and even things that people could get angry about. Like, there's that plot where Velma supposedly gets feelings for the mermaid. There's implications where Velma and Hot Dog Water end up together at the end of the second season as well. All these angry anti-woke videos, they will come out. They can have their outrage as well. They can get, you know what I mean, like there's going to be a conversation to be had. Some people that will be angry about the scene where Shaggy and Daphne have that moment where Shaggy thinks, or Daphne thinks that Shaggy's Fred. That will annoy a lot of people, but it will spark a conversation. And I think that's what the community needs. Something that is definitely good that we can sit and enjoy, but that sparks conversations. I think that would be cool. And I think a third season could do that. But I wouldn't
Yeah,
even be mad if just the
but
same crew came for a
considering
new show.
52 episodes for 2 seasons, that's pretty good.
Mm.
Well, for what we got, because considering What You Scooby Doo had 3 seasons, but was only 42 episodes in total. So it's like you could technically say it was done better with the more episodes because what Be Cool Scooby Doo got 52 episodes, so did Scooby Doo and Guess Who, but then again they were like half the runtime of um the new Scooby Doo movies were. So it's kind of came a long way where they're producing more episodes for a season, but it all really comes down to how well they impact those episodes. I feel like a continuation storyline with a main arc works well for Scooby Doo because then it
Mm.
gives the audience something to not just expect each month, to the anticipation each month, but they can also rewatch the last episode as a recap.
And
Because
theories
if
as
yeah,
well
because if
about
I
where
watch
the
Watching
story
Scooby
will
Doo,
go.
if I watch any other Scooby Doo episode in that, you're not going to quickly rewatch the last episode before the new one because you don't need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
It's
Guess Who? Guess Who? Perfectly fine. If that was coming out today, we could talk about what DC heroes we'd want to see join, what people we'd want to see guest star. Whereas with that story-based thing, we could rewatch, and again, there could be hidden details, Easter eggs, and hints on what's to come. I think that'd be cool, the theory side of things.
yeah, because most of it will come down to if it gets released in over the UK in time. Because what was it? It took a while for Mystery Incorporated to get fully released
Mm.
in the UK, but we only got volumes. Then it was like they finally released the
That's
seasons.
the big issue because Warner Brothers is so entwined with, say, HBO, or I guess it's called Max now, that the best way to do it would be to put it on some type of platform. And again, I'm not mad about streaming, but something that will unite more or less the whole world globally. So, Mystery Incorporated initially got its big resurgence when it was on Netflix, because Netflix, more often than not, is pretty worldwide, and you'd fit it all into the episodes that it was intended to be, like that order, so you could follow it from start to finish. It needs something like that. So, say if they did do a third season or a new show, and they announced that it would be released same day in the UK as it is in the US on Netflix, that to me is the perfect way to do things. But the problem is because it's Warner Brothers, it will be on Max, which isn't in the UK at all.
Which is annoying. And then people are like, oh, you can use a VPN, but then go do so much workarounds just to watch it. And the thing is, Velma, we don't know if that's going to be out on Blu-ray or not. So as a collector piece, we couldn't even have it if we wanted to.
And Velma's
That's
still not out in the UK,
no.
is it? I think someone saw on Twitter that maybe it was going to be on Prime, but I
If that was going
haven't
to be on Prime, at
checked.
least that's good. We can finish watching it.
If it
That's
was
one
on
thing.
Prime, not bad.
Having it on HBO was such
Not
a
bad.
stupid idea because it limits the audience who can watch it. It's like at least have
HBO is the worst, and it's not even that. Oh, we're angry because we're in the UK and we wouldn't be able to see. I mean, that is an element, of course, but just think, for all a large majority of the Scooby audience is US based, by limiting it to that thing, I think they're also limiting Canada as well. And it's like if everyone is having a discussion, it's bigger appeal in general. And I think that's what Netflix really did because it got everyone everywhere at least the chance to talk about it and see it. But HBO is just, it's crazy. And same with, oh, is it AMC now? They did some Walking Dead spin-offs. They're nowhere in the UK as well.
yeah, especially all the good ones now, like Dead City. That's not
Mm.
in the UK. The Daryl Dixon one that's going to come out. That's not in the UK.
The only thing we've got for Dead City is the soundtrack on iTunes.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
It's
Anything
crazy.
else we just can't watch. Even though people say it's great, I can't watch it. I got to wait till it's out on physical media,
If it
which is
even is over
yeah.
here.
It's
Because
the most annoying bit.
licensing.
It's the one bit I hate. It's like they can't really. They're not consistent with it being worldwide, especially in this day and age. You would have thought it would be
Yeah,
easier
and
to
they
do it.
did a glimmer of hope. They gave us the last season on Disney Plus. I think a week. I think it was like a week delay, maybe, but even that's not bad. Like a week's delay, but they didn't even do that. I think companies are either getting too comfortable, maybe resting on their laurels a bit to distribute things globally. Maybe they think they've just got enough pull in the US. But then I don't understand how that's good from a marketing perspective. So if there is a Mystery Incorporated season three or a new show, oh, I almost just they have to make some type of deal with Netflix or something. I
Because
don't
the one thing
know.
I don't want them to do is if they did do a season three and they really ruined it by adding things that we didn't really want. Because if you're going to do a third season, make sure that it has the same energy from the first two seasons. If you start using the name to throw in random shit because that's what you want to do, more people are going to hate it. And then we just have a good season that has a shitty breadcrumb on the end that we didn't want.
I think as long as they get the writers back, and I kind of feel like it wouldn't be the same if it was Kate McCucci, like as Velma. Like,
Because it was a different voice actor, wasn't it?
yeah, it was like Mindy Cohn, and I think she's my favorite. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess she's my most nostalgic Velma. But I think just for continuity, it would need to be her. But again, due to contracts, it will probably be Kate McCucci, which I don't think will be quite the same. Because obviously, I've made it no secret that she does desperately annoy me. But again, just for continuity, it's a bit, I don't know, it just wouldn't feel the same.
So I'm thinking, all these new voice actors, it's like, will they be able? I guess some people wouldn't mind if they got the new voice actor to voice the old Velma. I don't think it would be too bad. You might notice it if you just finished watching the seasons and then put on the third and be like, does that sound like Velma? Because I sometimes watch the old Scooby shows and I sometimes think, God, Matthew sounds a bit funny. And this one I'm thinking, no, it's not him. Because I'm so used to hearing his voice as Shaggy now, it's became the default.
I get that. I get that. I guess the only one that really changes dramatically is Velma because, like, basically Velma's whoever is playing her in a way. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess to kind of get into the process of wrapping up this section, if there is a third season of Mystery Incorporated, what are the kind of what are a couple of things that you'd want to make sure they got right?
I want them to make sure it's a continuous story, to have the story arc just as intense as the last one, and make sure that the personalities of the gang have not been altered in any way. Because the one thing that people don't want is to have the cast tampered with when we've already been used to them for two seasons. And this is supposed to be their grand moment to find answers. We don't really want it ruined. It's not like don't you throw some stupid, I don't know, find yourself destiny crap. But there they go find answers and along that journey to solve mysteries. It could be we don't know the guy on the tape. He could be a bad guy for all we know. He could be trying to double cross him because if he knows, how does he know? How does he know everything? How does he know about the previous existence that they lived? How Crystal Cove used to be the most shallow, darkest place on the planet to the most brightest where nothing bad happens. So I think if they keep that in check, I can definitely see a third season looking really good. But I've actually put to invest into it.
Yeah, I think that whole story is just interesting. Like I say, I don't want it to go into that. I think they should keep it relatively like personal scale, but also with that overarching plot like the first two seasons. But it would be curious to see if they would explore that multiverse later down the line. Like if it got a season 4 or 5, like I think that would be amazing. I think even they could even use it as a reason to go to different shows and do some stuff. Now, obviously, that may just be fan service here, but imagine, right? We got season 5 of Mystery Incorporated, and the villains like the Velma show. That would be
If they
interesting.
were going to do a crossover multiverse, it would be they would have to do an evil Scooby Doo gang.
Mm.
That's the main villains. They're basically going up against themselves. That would be a really good season. Is if they did discover the multiverse in the Scoobyverse, and then they find out that there's an evil syndicate of themselves who don't solve mysteries but cause them.
What, the
With any,
reverse.
yeah, the reverse gang. With the reverse Mr. Inc. Instead of solving crimes, we make them 10 times more worse.
That would be interesting. I mean, there's definitely a lot of potential, and some things that I'd even want separate episodes on this about. Like, I think we could have a whole entire episode about multiversal stuff, which maybe we'll have that in at some point.
Or
But
they could do, or they could do like a gang that's reverse of what their counterparts are. So
mm,
they could be muscle Shaggy or overweight Shaggy who doesn't exercise or Shaggy who doesn't like eat as much. it's, it's not like a food gloria. They can go through so many different variations of themselves.
maybe like Scooby as a cat or something.
Yeah,
Like we don't know. We don't know. Anything
or Scooby as a
is
shaved dog.
possible. Oh gosh. That'd be a bit weird. But yeah, I guess that sorts out this portion. The next thing we probably do will be a tier list, so do stick out for that. But to wrap up this part of the video, where can people find you on the internet, Mark?
You can find me on my Twitter at iGosLuigi or my Instagram at Mark Marsh 94, or you can head over to my YouTube channel where I post videos fairly often each week.
That is incredible. So thank you so much for watching. If you do want to see more, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.